This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. It's been a dreadful and agonizing wait today for people in Dauphin. RCMP say investigators are still working to confirm the identities of the victims of a disastrous crash. This is what the crash scene looks like today. About 24 seniors from Dauphin were on their way to the Sandhills Casino south of Carberry. Their bus collided with a semi-truck, killing 15 and injuring 10 others. We'll hear more about the RCMP investigation into the crash in a moment, but first, CBC's Josh Crabb is standing by in Dauphin with reaction from a community in mourning. Josh, how are people processing this horrific crash?
Emily, there's a somber mood, but amid all the grief, the community is stepping up. I watched earlier today as people set up tables and chairs inside the curling rink in the rec center here in Dauphin behind me to give people space to grieve. And just across the street from here at a nearby senior center, a bingo game went on as usual, all in an effort to support families and give others a place to gather as information trickles in.
I-29.
There are a few missing faces among the regular crowd at Friday Bingo at the Dauphin Active Living Center. This is the same place seniors gathered a day earlier to catch a bus for what was supposed to be a fun outing to the Sandhills Casino. It ended in tragedy. Sandra Kalita and her husband Glenn thought about going. They know others who did.
One of the ladies that I play Scrabble with, I know was on that bus tour, and I have no idea how she is.
A wheelchair-accessible bus carrying 25 people collided with a semi here Thursday morning around 11:40. The crash site is just outside Carberry, nearly 200 kilometers southeast of Dauphin on the Trans-Canada Highway. 15 people have been confirmed dead. 10 others were seriously injured and are being treated in hospitals in Brandon and Winnipeg.
It's terrible. Yeah. I just broke down when I heard it.
RCMP say the bus was headed southbound on Highway 5. It crossed the westbound lanes of the 4-lane Trans-Canada Highway and was crossing the eastbound lanes when it was hit by a semi. Kim Armstrong with the Dauphin Active Living Center says it's open to give people a place to go if they feel alone.
It's a huge wound to the community and to our organization.
The City of Dauphin has set up a support center in the curling rink for any family and community members who want to gather and grieve. Some people here are still waiting to find out who exactly was on the bus. Mayor David Boziak says Dauphin will help any way it can.
We feel confident in that regard that there is support and that the support is from across the country. And that's heartening in its own way. But, people have asked me, what would you like people to do? And we're saying at this stage, if you know someone from our community or if you are connected in our community in any way, just reach out.
The hashtag Dauphin Strong was on display at City Hall and flags lowered to half-mast. Dauphin's Fire Chief Cameron Abry thinks of the first responders near Carberry and the families of those they worked to save.
I personally know many of those that were on scene, and really my thoughts are with them right now, along with the families of those that grieve.
The Kalitas say the grieving has only just begun.
We're going to need a lot of support, and I think we're going to have it. It's tough. It's very tough.
We're like a little family, and we share things and just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just devastating.
Counseling services have been made available at the curling rink. The area's MLA, Brad Michaleski, is in Dauphin. He says he's been in contact with the provincial government to coordinate support for the community. Emily.
Thank you, Josh. That's CBC's Josh Crabb in Dauphin. Well, there have been no new deaths over the past 24 hours, and all 10 survivors remain in hospital, but Shared Health says they aren't all out of the woods yet. CBC's Brittany Greenslade picks up that part of the coverage.
By ground and by air, victims were quickly transported to 4 hospitals around the southern part of the province as first responders worked to save lives, and Manitobans waited to hear about their loved ones.
Yesterday, Manitoba experienced one of the worst tragedies this province has ever seen.
The drivers of both the semi and the handy transit bus remain in hospital. The extent of their injuries is unclear. 6 people are still in critical condition, and Dr. Sean Young says there are more surgeries that need to happen.
These are quite extensive injuries. Like I said, 6 of them are in critical care, receiving life-saving support. Many orthopedic injuries, as you can imagine.
RCMP say all of the victims range in age from 58 to 88. With so many seniors impacted, age is a major factor.
It will impact their recovery. It will impact their outcomes as well. This is an elderly cohort of patients, and so the recoveries will be long and their course could be complicated.
Shared health officials say teams worked into the night to transfer all but one patient to the province's largest trauma hospital in Winnipeg. The other victim remains in hospital in Brandon. Nearly 30 people were transferred out of Health Sciences Centre to other health regions to create capacity for the massive response needed.
There are no words to express the tragic nature of this incident or to properly acknowledge the impact that this type of event has had on families, first responders, healthcare teams, and entire communities.
An impact not only being felt in the city of Dauphin, but across the country. Brittany Greenslade, CBC News, Winnipeg.
We're learning more tonight about the investigation into the crash. RCMP in Winnipeg just provided an update. CBC's Alana Cole was there.
RCMP say investigators have been working through the night. They now have video that shows what happened. Superintendent Rob Lawson says they've been able to look at dash cam video from the semi-truck facing toward the road. Now, he makes it clear they aren't assigning culpability or blame, just stating the facts as they know them right now.
Firstly, we have obtained video footage of the collision that was seized from the semi-truck trailer. This video indicates that the bus entered the roadway where the semi-trailer truck had the right-of-way. Extensive analysis is being done on the video before any further determinations are made. We have seized the bus and the semi-truck, and both have been secured at this time. Further analysis will take place of both vehicles.
At the news conference this afternoon, we also learned that there were 26 people involved in the crash, 25 on the bus and the driver of the semi-truck. Now, RCMP say they have been able to identify the 10 survivors, and they've had conversations with the remaining 15 families to let them know their loved one is presumed dead. Now, those victims have not been individually identified yet. Manitoba's chief medical examiner says they hope to be able to start autopsies Monday.
Now that my office and my investigators have the names of the suspected deceased individuals, they're in the process of acquiring all medical information that can be found as quickly as possible, including dental records from the reported dentist's office. And once we have those records, we can proceed with the postmortem examination.
RCMP say this investigation will take time. They're asking anyone with video to contact police. They also said today that the driver of the semi-truck has been released from hospital and they have been able to speak with him. The driver of the bus remains in hospital. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
We got some data on that intersection and accident numbers. There were 29 collisions there from 2012 to 2021. 16 caused property damage only. 12 resulted in some sort of injury. 1 resulted in a fatality. Of these 29 collisions, 7 are listed as collisions with animals and 22 are listed as collisions with a motor vehicle. Well, when it comes to support, CBC spoke with Tracy Mugley earlier today. She was one of the first crisis workers on the scene after the crash 5 years ago in Humboldt. Mugley said in these early stages, it's important to have a place where people can gather, be together, and have access to timely information. She says the impacts of a tragedy like this won't only affect first responders and families, but the community at large.
Certainly they will need a way to be able to be together and to connect with each other. I think it's important to keep in mind that everyone is as impacted as they need to be. So the range of experience people are having, whether they have a direct association with somebody involved in the situation or not, are maybe impacted to varying degrees, and everyone's experience of how they're dealing with this is legitimate and needs to be honored. And that can be hard sometimes, because for some people, even back here in Saskatchewan, I'm sure there's people today that are being triggered and are experiencing a heightened sense of emotions that was unanticipated that they will need support with. So it's just really important to provide whatever people need in whatever way that they're experiencing this in the moment.
Now, tragedies like this can have a significant impact on our mental health and well-being. Wellness Canada has a support line for anyone who passed by the scene of the collision yesterday, and Prairie Mountain Health is working with the communities of Dauphin and Carberry to provide mental health supports to people impacted by yesterday's tragedy. In other stories we're following today, Peguis First Nation and surrounding communities say their ambulance service is at risk of shutting down. The service's funding agreement with the province expired in 2019, and as CBC's Cameron McLean reports, First Nations leaders say they can't keep footing this bill.
Most Manitobans can count on an ambulance arriving within minutes if they need one. But First Nations leaders warned today that might not be the case for their citizens. They declared a state of emergency, saying the Fisher ambulance service could shut down unless the province steps up. Kathy Merrick is the Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs.
I am shocked, I'm appalled and upset that this declaration of a state of emergency has been issued when it could have been avoided.
The ambulance service covers about 14,000 people in Peguis, Fisher River, and Kanonjioshtegon First Nations, as well as the RM of Fisher. Medical Director John Neufeld says negotiations with the province have failed to produce a new agreement.
The community is not asking for anything other than what other communities in Manitoba get every single day.
Fisher River Cree Nation Chief David Crate says First Nations people face disproportionately high rates of health conditions.
We're talking about a high-risk population. We're talking about people with diabetes, health conditions related to heart problems.
They say yesterday's crash near Carberry underscores the importance of having paramedics available in First Nations.
It makes me extraordinarily sad that it's possible that if something like that were to happen in Peguis or the surrounding communities, and the funding for this ambulance service isn't straightened out, there may be nobody to respond to that type of an accident in those communities.
The Fisher ambulance service costs about $8 million a year to operate, most of which Peguis First Nation has been paying for. The leaders today say they need at least a promise that a new agreement is coming, or else it will shut down by the end of the month. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
CBC News reached out to the province for comment, and a spokesperson for Shared Health says it has provided an analyst along with data and cost comparisons to help with their funding application to the province, and says it'll keep working with the service to find a solution. Well, Manitoba has found a use for the personal care home visitation pods it bought during the pandemic. The government is donating the 104 shelters. About half are going to First Nations, many for housing. A handful will be used by municipalities, and the rest are going to nonprofit organizations, including the Assiniboine Park Zoo in Winnipeg. It'll use the pods to help care for animals. Government Services Minister James Teetsma says he wanted to spread the shelters around to lots of groups.
55 different organizations gave us proposals. We had the phone ringing in the office of that manages the expressions of interest, which does not often happen, if ever happen. And there was also a number of organizations that were in contact with my office that did not end up submitting proposals as well. So tremendous response from Manitobans, but also tremendous variety and creativity.
The shelters will be used for lots of purposes, including housing, recreation, and vegetation. The government's decision to buy these shelters during the pandemic has faced scrutiny. The project went over budget, and the pods were underutilized. Well, sad news for hockey fans. The Winnipeg Ice franchise is moving west. The Western Hockey League says the team has been sold and relocated to Wenatchee, Washington. The WHL says multiple attempts by Ice ownership to construct an arena in Winnipeg of acceptable league standards were unsuccessful. The league says the club will operate under new ownership. And we're joined now by CBC weather specialist Marjorie Dowhouse. Marjorie, there was all these little showers like feather light, just like mist in the air today. What's up for this evening?
Well, I like how you describe that. Feather, light. It really just was a little bit of a sprinkle, right? For the most part, those showers have now moved on. We're starting to see the sky clear out. And if you're planning on sitting outside, well, should be dry for you this evening.
Right.
Let's take a look right now at current conditions here in Winnipeg. It is still cloudy though. Those showers have tapered off. It is currently 19 degrees in the city. A little bit cooler than maybe we thought we were going to be at. We thought we were going to get up to a high of around 22, but still around the seasonal for this time of year, which is around 24 degrees. Light wind out of the south at 7 right now, and that barometric pressure is rising, which means those clouds are breaking up. Here's a current look at the satellite radar. You can see that band of feathery showers that Emily described have actually now pushed into northwestern Ontario, a little bit clearer up to the north, and you can see those clouds breaking up over Winnipeg here. Now, Futurecast, we're going to see the sky continue to clear out overnight, but Saturday morning, look at this, we're going to see more increasing cloud in the morning, chance of showers in the morning. So we're looking at occasional showers throughout the day tomorrow. We're going to see a lot of cloud cover in the afternoon. There is the chance that we could see some more showers Saturday evening before it clears out again overnight Sunday. And I know a lot of folks keeping track of what's going to be happening on Sunday, which is the Manitoba Marathon. We're looking at some clouds. Chance of showers a little bit cooler, so actually maybe some pleasant conditions to be running in. Those clouds will clear out on Sunday afternoon. Monday, we're looking at a clear sky to begin with, but as you can see in behind it here, we do have some clouds rolling in that could bring some showers to the western part of the province. So tonight here in Winnipeg, we are looking at a low of 12 degrees, clearing sky, wind out of the west at 20. Tomorrow morning, chance of a shower, increasing cloud, 18 degrees. That chance of occasional showers continues in the afternoon and a high of 23. So the weekend is actually going to start off pretty pleasant temperature-wise. 23 degrees tomorrow, 28 on Sunday, under a mainly sunny sky after those clouds clear out in the morning, and then the heat returns. 30 and mainly sunny on Monday, 34 on Tuesday, with the possibility of some showers, so it could also be humid on that day as well, and that heat continues for most of next week. I'll have all the details coming up, Emily.
Wow, that sounds hot. Thank you, Marjorie. Another sure sign of summer, it's the first night of the Red River X. Fairgoers will notice security is beefed up this year. Organizers say they reevaluated safety issues after a shooting at last year's event. Joining us now is CEO Garth Rogerson. Hi, Garth.
Well, thanks for having me.
Great to have you. So tell us about the changes you've made this year to security.
Yeah, well, you know, after many, many years of no incidents at all, then we had, a very unfortunate one last year and kind of, woke us up a little bit. And looking around the community, the size of our audience is a small city every day. So, we have to pay attention to that and some of the challenges within the community and take action appropriately to ensure that the public comes out and has a fun, enjoyable time. And they don't have to worry about security because we're going to take care of that.
So give us some examples of, how you've stepped it up for this year on security.
Yeah, we really done some analysis on distribution of guards and, how we can, we apportion the site and the specific guards to specific duties and also, like the extra fencing. We've done, we have security cameras all over the place. Everybody's on camera, and we have actually have people monitoring those cameras so we can look for suspicious behavior and then dispatch people accordingly. So we have a control room. Everybody's connected by radio, and it's really a very integrated system of communication to ensure that, we get to those trouble spots. We're also, new this year, we're really expanded out beyond the confines of the fairgrounds to the broader property. We have a very large property here, so ensuring that people don't, maybe come in across the field. And, it's not huge deal if somebody sneaks in. But the challenge today is those people that might want to sneak in, what are they carrying? So in the past, somebody sneaks in, that's okay. But now it's a whole new thing, right? So we have to be conscious of this and really lock ourselves down very tight.
That does sound very tight, but it also sounds like those changes might be very expensive. How has that affected your budget?
Yeah, well, security now it's been growing pretty steady, but now it's by far the largest expense that we have. But it's critical. If we don't provide that level of security, the guests will lose confidence, and we want to make sure that this is a family-friendly event where everybody feels safe. And so, whatever it costs, whatever we have to do that. And we're starting to look at new technologies as well. There's some very interesting developments coming on the market, a unique detectors that don't only detect metal, but detect density, because, as we saw last year, plastic guns are a thing now. So, plastic knives, these kinds of things that some of the less reputable people of the community are trying to sneak in, that maybe aren't detected by a metal detector, which is, we have to do bag searches and we've got to do pat downs and those kinds of things again. But with this new technologies coming in that we're hoping to get, we can't get it for this year, but hopefully next year it'll be available, that will take security to a whole new level and just add another level of safety.
So apart from the heavier security, what else can visitors expect from this year's Red River X?
Well, it's the first time in our history that I can say 6 brand new rides. So, I mean, that's a huge, spectaculars, brand new roller coaster. This X Drive is a new generation ride that is a little bit over the top. It's been this way, that way, and that way, so it's very incredible. And then, of course, there's the new trend now is for kiddie rides to be where the parents can go on as well, so that it's parents want to experience that with their child. So the new rides coming out now have that ability to accommodate adults as well. So we were just trying out the Jumbo ride earlier, which is kind of fun. The kids will love it. And we have a big dinosaur exhibit, animatronic dinosaurs. So I think it might even be a titch scary for some little kids, but a lot of fun anyway. And you know what? Food, like just every kind of food known to man. I was walking around, dill pickles seem to be a thing this year. Deep fried dill pickle, dill pickle pizza, dill pickle ice cream. I go, what is it with dill pickles this year? But no, it's a little bit of something for everybody. The music, 200 hours of music, 3 stages going. We've got, pretty much everywhere. Couple of dog show, Canine Circus, Extreme Dogs. We've got iFlip, children's entertainers, walk around entertainers. Everywhere you look, you're going to see something fun and interesting to see and do.
Oh, it does sound like so much fun. Thanks for joining us today, Garth.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Garth Rogerson is CEO of Red River X. The fair kicks off tonight and runs through Sunday, June 25th. Well, coming up, making the world more accessible. We'll hear how a Manitoba engineer who suffered a spinal injury hopes to make life easier for others like him. That story after the break. A Manitoba engineer who suffered a spinal injury 4 years ago turned his personal quest to make life more accessible into a bigger challenge to help others. CBC's Rachel Bergen went to his workshop to learn more.
Hey, my name is Corey Mazinki, and I'm the founder of C5 Mobility. When I was injured, my life was kind of thrown upside down, and I kind of had to figure out where I fit in again. I was now kind of reliant on so much like different assistive technology and mobility devices and gadgets and whatnot just to kind of live and do normal tasks. And like my brain was always kind of working like how these things work and how they can be better and how maybe I can make something that would benefit my life more. Initially it was like genuine objects and gadgets that like allowed me to do just the simplest things like drink out of a can or like open a door. Yeah, it was just like honestly life-changing for me, even though it seems as like so simple. And I just kind of got almost hooked on like that feeling of like what else can I make that would benefit my life and benefit someone else's life. And it just kind of progressed from one thing to the next. Like all the public beaches in Manitoba, I think it would be awesome to have a beach chair like available for use if someone needs it. Because I've been to other places in the world and a lot of them have like some sort of program where there's a beach wheelchair that people can use. Before my injury, I never thought of like, you know, handicap parking spots or ramps or like the threshold on a door. Like I had maybe the skill set to help in those ways, but I just never thought of it. And now that you're in the situation, you're kind of forced to think of all those little things. And I think the world in general could be so much more accessible than it is.
That looks nice. A Winnipeg man living with addiction has picked a federal prison sentence over time in jail. He's been in custody before and says the merits of doing so surprised him. But as CBC's Josh Crabb reports, his choice isn't all that unusual in Canada.
This is Stony Mountain Institution north of Winnipeg, a federal penitentiary where 34-year-old Jason Walmsley wanted to serve his 2-year sentence rather than in a provincial jail.
The one that had the most check marks for the positives were Stony Mountain, which were baffling to me. How can federal prison be the best option out of all of these other options?
His crimes weren't violent, but there were a lot of them. Commercial break-and-enters and thefts, fueled by a cocaine addiction. He relapsed after more than 3 years of sobriety. The Crown wanted to send Walmsley to provincial jail, which would have meant a sentence of less than 2 years. He wanted a longer one to access more supports.
When you first come to federal prison, everything is dealt with in a very quick manner in terms of mental health, physical health, a job placement within the prison to be able to keeping yourself busy, programming.
Walmsley's been sharing his experiences with CBC since 2019. He was serving a sentence at Headingley Correctional Centre, a provincial jail just west of Winnipeg. He's grateful for the addictions programming there, but Walmsley says he wasn't able to get mental health or trauma counseling after his release, and no drug testing to ensure he was staying clean and sober. Testing, he says, he can get through the federal system.
First and foremost, I need to hold myself accountable to what I'm doing, but the thought of being held accountable by somebody else helps me in order to stay on the straight and narrow, right?
This researcher says there's evidence Walmsley's experience isn't unique. Criminal justice professor Katarina Meyer says better conditions and greater access to rehabilitative programs are factors.
So it's really important that we listen to people's reasons why they would choose federal incarceration, because that tells us something about their struggles in the community. It also tells us something about the state of our prisons.
Walmsley says a release from a provincial jail would start with a drop-off at a bus stop. The province says that's true, but in more complex cases, inmates can be transferred to treatment centers or programs. Once he's done his time at Stony, Walmsley says he'll go to a halfway house.
That is paramount, and being able to be released here with a plan is the literal difference between being dropped off at that bus shack and being dropped off somewhere that can help you.
Provincial Court Judge Kasham Sharma accepted the sentence Walmsley preferred. The judge told him his perspective is important and the court should know what's going to help him to break the cycle of addiction and crime. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke about the Carberry tragedy earlier today from Montreal.
I want to express all my deepest sympathies and condolences to the people of Carberry, Manitoba, and the folks who have lost loved ones, who are living through moments of tremendous anguish right now. I think of the people who are in hospital now with injuries. I can't imagine what these families are going through. It, of course, brings back memories of other terrible incidents like in Humboldt, Saskatchewan.
The Prime Minister says the flag on top of Ottawa's Peace Tower will be at half-mast in honor of the crash victims. As you saw earlier on Josh Crabb's story, CBC spoke this morning with the Mayor of Dauphin, David Boziak. We asked how his city is coping with the tragic loss of so many community members.
Yeah, last night I was at the Family Support Center as information was trickling in. The RCMP and Prairie Mountain Health and sort of a mental health trauma team was there, and there were some family members that were waiting for information. And I can report that seems to be the hardest part right now is getting information from the authorities on who is in hospital and who may have survived, and so that's the hardest part. And trying to work with the families and the agencies in the community that are all pulling together today to try and figure out what's the best thing to do next to try and help those that have are in the greatest area of concerns for us. Literally everyone in the community knows someone that was involved, and that's where we hope to generate the support from each other as we work through this as a community. It's tremendously difficult, and emotions are so powerful right now, and people will be grieving and dealing with this in their own way, and we want to be absolutely sensitive to all of that. But we'll be doing whatever we can as a municipality. We'll be reaching out to the rural municipality of Dauphin and talk to their people, and our fire chief was out last night, and our critical response members were communicating with one another, and we'll figure it out eventually. But it's tremendously difficult today for sure for everybody that's involved. Most people seem to be in a state of disbelief, shock, an uncertainty, a level of uncertainty. I will acknowledge that the RCMP and the Prairie Mountain Health staff were absolutely supportive and doing the best that they can in a very difficult situation. We were discussing a little bit with some of the the RCMP members the difficulty it was for the first responders and the people that were on scene immediately, and there's just a sense of foreboding, I guess is a word, for everybody concerned. We're concerned about people at all levels, from those that were involved in the accident to those that responded immediately, to those that are attempting and caring for people right now, and just for all the people in the community and what they're dealing with. So again, it's going to be a tough couple of days for us for sure, but we're going to do the best we can, and hopefully it will eventually be okay. But right now it's tremendously difficult. All I'd like to ask people to do is, if you know someone in our community, from our community, reach out to them. Give them a phone call, send them a message, send them an email. Just let them know that they're thinking about us, and I think that would be very helpful right now. I know that as I've been contacted by other mayors in Reeves and other municipalities, it's been, it helps a bit in knowing that other people are caring for us. And I think that that's what would be most helpful right now. Reach out. If you know someone from our community, please reach out.
The Supreme Court ruled today the Safe Third Country Agreement between Canada and the United States is constitutional, at least in part. That agreement makes it illegal for people to cross into Canada from the U.S. and ask for asylum. It marks a legal victory for the federal government, but as CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian reports, the ruling is being denounced by refugee advocates.
For years, the busiest irregular border crossing for asylum seekers between the U.S. and Canada.
shut down after the two neighbors finalized the renewal of the Safe Third Country Agreement, stating anyone making a claim in one of them had to do so in the first country where they land.
The stakes are extremely high. People are risking their lives just to seek safety in Canada because of this agreement.
Amnesty International was one of 3 groups that argued the agreement violates Canadian charter rights. But today the Supreme Court struck that down. In a unanimous ruling, it found safety valves exist, allowing claimants to stay in Canada. Measures such as temporary resident permits or humanitarian exemptions.
Today's ruling has left me deeply disappointed.
Once an irregular border crosser himself, this Amnesty International employee says the decision will endanger people's lives as they continue to flee to Canada.
It will put them in further danger as they cross through unofficial ports of entry, through farmers' fields, and through relying on smugglers.
But the court also found refugee groups may have a point arguing asylum seekers face gender-based discrimination because of the agreement, ruling a lower court has to take a second look at their claim the U.S. often denies cases that cite gender-based violence.
So there's a provision and a process to which Canada can follow to expand the exemption. And this critical exemption, I think, needs to be made for those who are faced with gender-based persecution.
We don't simply want to open the asylum process for anyone who faces violence when in fact they could be safe somewhere else in the country in which they're currently situated. But to the extent a person truly cannot be safe and cannot make an asylum claim under the existing agreement, those are the kinds of public interest exemptions that exist under the agreement.
This, as all sides agree, claims are only likely to keep expanding. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees now cites there are 110 million refugees around the world. Rafi Bujikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
Coming up, a cyclone has torn through an area along the coasts of India and Pakistan. 2 people are dead, and the destruction is widespread. We'll have the latest after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. 2 people are dead and destruction is widespread along the coasts of India and Pakistan after a cyclone tore through the region. Cyclone Biparjoy translates as calamity, and that's what this treacherous storm has been delivering. Power poles have been blown over and roofs torn up as winds of 100 kilometers an hour whip through western India and southern Pakistan. Torrential rains and tidal waves had led to fears of widespread flooding. Hundreds of thousands of people in both countries were forced to flee. Plane and train travel are on hold. Rain and winds continue, but the worst of the storm has largely passed. Meanwhile, severe weather turned deadly yesterday in parts of the southern U.S. At least 3 people were killed and more than 50 others injured after powerful tornadoes ripped through a Texas panhandle town. A twister also touched down near Pensacola, Florida, killing 1 person.
Tornado is just 100 yards or so right there.
The town of Perryton, Texas, took the brunt near the Oklahoma border. Large parts of the area have been reduced to piles of twisted debris. Emergency crews and search dogs looked for survivors into the early morning hours. Several people are in hospital in critical condition. As many as 200 homes have been destroyed, and hundreds of thousands of residents are without power. Officials believe as many as 10 tornadoes tore through the south central states. Well, fortunately, the weather here in Manitoba has been much more mild. And in fact, it's a big weekend, Marjorie. We've got the Red River X has opened. The Manitoba Marathon is on Sunday, and that's also Father's Day. What's the weather looking like for that?
Well, it's for Father's Day, it's going to start off a little cloudy, but it's going to get better. Let me show you. Take a look at this. Oh, let's go into Dad's workshop. This kind of, I mean, I feel like I've gone back into Dad's workshop. Kind of cool, hey? Well, yeah. Well, this is what we're looking at here. Clouds to start off the day, as I showed you, but it is going to be mostly sunny. Yeah, by the afternoon, the clouds are going to start to break up late in the morning. Perfect conditions if you plan on sitting outside, having a barbecue with Dad, maybe taking Dad golfing. Hope you have something special in mind for Dad. Well, taking a look at current conditions right now here across the province, we have 2 different stories, cloud cover in the south and clear up north. Right now in Winnipeg, it is still mostly cloudy at the airport, 19 degrees, 20 at the Forks. Cloudy right now in Brandon, 18 degrees for you, 22 in Portage. And you can see they're a little bit warmer as we head into central Manitoba. There are 21 in Gimli, 23 in Swan River. Sunshine in the Paw right now at 24 degrees. We've got 20 in Lynn Lake, 22 at this hour under a partly cloudy sky in Thompson, 18 right now in Churchill. Tonight, northwestern Ontario should be a pretty pleasant, uneventful evening with the exception of Red Lake. You're going to be expecting to see some local smoke there, an overnight low of 12 degrees, 15 degrees in Kenora. For us here in southeastern Manitoba, the Red River Valley, well, for the folks that are heading out to the Red River X, looking like those showers are going to hold off. It will be cloudy, though, low of 12 degrees here. Fog developing overnight in Gimli. There is the chance of showers in Emerson as well as in Steinbach, lows of 14 degrees. Fog in southwestern Manitoba tonight, 8 degrees in Brandon, 9 in Dauphin, 10 in Swan River. Up north, well, there is increasing cloud for you. Overnight in Thompson, a low of 11. Chance of showers in a low of 8 degrees in Churchill. Risk of a thunderstorm in Island Lake. Tomorrow, look at these temperatures. Seasonal, 25 degrees in Thompson under a cloudy sky. There is the chance of some showers. Risk of a thunderstorm for the Paw and Flin Flon. Fog to start off in the morning in southwestern Manitoba, but once it clears out, you're looking at hazy conditions, 25 degrees in Brandon, 26 in Swan River. Chance of showers here in the Red River Valley. High of 24 in Emerson, 21 in Gimli, northwestern Ontario. Also the chance of showers for you as well with the risk of a thunderstorm. That local smoke continues in Red Lake and you're looking at a high of 22 degrees. I'll have your extended 7-day forecast coming up in just a little bit, Emily.
Thank you, Marjorie. Coming up, Thousands of runners will take over Winnipeg this Sunday for the 45th annual Manitoba Marathon. Scorching temperatures last year forced the race to be canceled not long after it started, so runners are hoping for a better day, and sounds like we're going to get it. We'll hear from the marathon's executive director after the break. Thousands of runners will take over Winnipeg this Sunday for the 45th annual Manitoba Marathon. And after weather forced the race to be canceled last year, not long after it got started, many are hoping for a better day. Executive Director Rachel Monday let us pull her away from all the pre-race madness for a few minutes today. Thanks for joining us, Rachel.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So we are looking at a pretty good forecast for Sunday. How many people do you expect to turn up for this year's race, and what can people look forward to on this 45th year?
Oh, it's going to be a great day. We've got lots of excitement. We've had lots of last-minute registrations, and we're thinking we're going to have about 8,000 runners on Sunday morning. So the streets are going to be full. There's going to be music, lots of excitement. We can't wait.
Nice. So last year's race was called off after roughly 75 minutes because of those scorching temperatures we had, and there was concern for the runners' health and safety, but there were issues getting the message out to the people who were already mid-race, and that led to some chaos and confusion. What will your team do differently this year and moving forward?
Well, it gave us an opportunity to review some of the plans that we'd had for a long time. Of course, we were the only race ever in Canada to cancel an event. So even though we had great plans, we had never used them. And then to be able to take the feedback from people on the course, both the good and the bad, be able to sit and look and figure out what the best way was to move forward and how we could communicate with people better. We've started communicating earlier this year. So we've been sending out emails to all of the runners every second day with weather updates and what the plans were for the race. Of course, the weather looks great this year, so there's not a lot of updating to do, but we've talked with all of our partners. We've gone through our incident command and what would happen if any kind of incident happened on the course. So we do have a better plan. We know what went wrong and we know what went right. And if something should happen, we're prepared, but we're not expecting anything to happen.
Okay, well, that's good. So do you have any last-minute tips for first-time runners and those who might be getting a little nervous ahead of the race day?
Ooh, well, first-time runners is always exciting. There's lots of energy and nervousness. Our biggest recommendation is that anyone who's running at this point is just to not do anything that they haven't already done. So, eat normal things, drink normal things, get lots of sleep, put your feet up, rest a little bit, and make sure your legs are fresh for race day, and then we're all going to have a great time.
How much rest do you need to get before doing a marathon?
You just don't want to stay up all night and go out partying, I guess. Maybe you don't go to a wedding the night before or a social or something like that. Just make sure you're taking care of yourself, you're hydrating. Because even when it's not warm, you perspire a lot when you're running. So you want to make sure that you're well hydrated. You want to make sure that you're well fed, and you want to make sure you've had enough rest so that when you get out there on race day, you're just ready to, get a personal best or even cross the finish line upright and smiling.
Yes. So these races, of course, never happen without the help of hundreds of volunteers. Can people still get involved? And if so, what do they need to know?
Absolutely. So if people still want to run, we're here at the Expo today until 7, and then we're here from 9 to 5 tomorrow. People can still register for some of our events in person. And if they want to volunteer, they can come on down. We've got a few course marshal positions left open. We're always happy to have people come and help. And if you're not doing either of those things, check out our maps on our website or on our app and get out on the streets and cheer people on and make this an amazing event for all the people that are out there running.
Great. Yeah, all that support helps. All the best this weekend to you and your team, all the racers. Rachel, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Well, still to come, Marjorie Dowhouse will be back with the 7-day forecast, including what the weather will look like for Sunday's marathon. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
All right, so it's looking very pleasant for the marathon on Sunday. Around 7 o'clock in the morning, we're looking at about 16 degrees, a little bit more cloud cover, chance of some showers. I think those showers will hold off, and then we're looking at about 19 degrees by the time people start crossing the finish line on Sunday. We'll rebound to a high of 28 on Sunday, mainly sunny, and then here comes the heat. Look at those temperatures. Monday, 30, 34 on Tuesday, 30 on Wednesday, with also the chance of some showers. So the heat is coming back, Emily. Well, students sometimes bring gifts to their teachers at the end of the school year, right?
Yeah, well, I remember that. But a teacher in Nunavut's turning that around with gifts for her students on the last day of school. Here's your Daily Lift. Becky Hutchings knit 18 sweaters starting last August. She said she had to put off the knitting for a while to care for her mother, but managed to get 10 done in 2 months. She's carrying on a family tradition. Her teacher and mother also made sweaters for her class.
Oh, that is so sweet.
Really nice and handy in Nunavut, I imagine.
Yeah.
That was the CBC Winnipeg News at 6. We'll be back at 11. Have a nice evening.
Good night.